The first thing I did before the end of my life. It was from the beach of the bathing resort that he picked up the meteorite fragment with his bare hands and swallowed it whole without hesitation. For shortly after, the end times would descend in the bitterest of winters, when countless monsters were imported from another realm, madly devouring humanity. And that meteorite fragment, after the invasion from the other realm, would allow one to become an extremely powerful chosen professional. Though in my previous life I had awakened as a 3-star necromancer, becoming a level 160 chosen one, I was still subjugated by the demon Marquis Gallus, along with my undead army. The first thing the king did upon his return was try to find a way to possess the identity of a chosen professional. At this moment, I raised my head and gazed blankly at the familiar classroom and classmates. This was Peach Garden High School, where I had studied 10 years ago. How did I end up here? I fiercely slapped myself across the face and cried out as I felt the sting on my cheek. In an instant, unbridled joy surged through my heart. I promptly ignored my classmates' bewildered looks and fled the classroom. Throwing a $100 bill at the taxi driver, I shouted, "Drive, Kingsha Beach. I have an emergency." In the taxi, I kept glancing at my watch, for I remembered clearly that the catastrophe would begin at 5 p.m. on May 5th. It was already 4:30 p.m. now. I only had half an hour left. While the taxi driver also noticed my urgent demeanor, took a shortcut against traffic, eventually getting me to my destination at 4:50. "Master, I'll be right back. If you don't mind, you can wait here for a moment." I released my benevolence. A catastrophe was about to arrive. If the driver was willing to wait, I might be able to save his life. I bought a ticket, entered the beach resort. Nearing dusk, there were only a few dozen people at the beach resort. My gaze swept across the crowd like lightning, locking onto the plump body of a middle-aged office worker. "Lu Jaya. I found you." Lu Jaya was the first demon king. As long as I stared at him intently, the Zuan Wuxing demon king could not escape me. Without making a sound, I lingered near the Lu family. Soon, the minute and second hands aligned. The time was PM. A cold, emotionless voice instantly planted itself in the minds of all humans on Earth. "The Supreme Court has ruled that Earth number 9527 will be the trial ground." Just as this cold, cruel voice rang out, time froze at exactly PM. A gray wave of energy swept across the entire Earth in an instant. The planes, tanks, nuclear weapons, aircraft carriers, all the proud technology of vanished completely. Zombies, vampires, cannibals, dragons, and all sorts of monsters descended upon the Earth out of thin air. Dark-scaled fish covered in gorgeous gray scales, holding sharpened blades in their hands, lurked underwater. Their stupid, cruel protruding fish eyes stared at the scantily clad people on the beach. At the same time, a meteor shower rained down. Billions of colorful meteors scattered across the globe. White, green, blue, and purple, the 5-colored meteors slashed across city skies. The most landed in Jianghai City, with a permanent population of 15 million. White meteors were the most numerous, tens of thousands of them. The most dazzling and rarest were the orange meteors. Only 3 of them. One large orange meteor headed straight for the beach. It landed right between Lu and myself. Both of us looked at the orange meteor, unblinking, with a resounding announcement that the trial had begun. The frozen time started moving again. The dark-scaled fish people immediately charged from the water to attack. Having regained mobility, I sprinted towards the orange light at full speed. Lu's speed was no slower than mine. Realizing the world had drastically changed, Lu rushed towards his only hope for survival. "I intended to spare your life, but you insist on seeking death." No wonder my finger pushed out a sharp blade. With a flick of my wrist, I flung the flying dagger. The blade sliced through the air swiftly like a flash. Lu Jia only saw a fleeting glimpse before his throat was slashed by my utility knife. His artery was cut open, gushing out copious fresh blood from the knife wound. Lu Jia wanted to question why I tried to kill him, but he only uttered one word before coughing incessantly from his throat. His vision went black, his body went limp. After a few seconds of struggle, he died. Lu Jia completely failed to understand the cruelty of the apocalypse, nor did he know the true meaning of the orange light sphere. It was the key to defying fate, the greatest opportunity since my rebirth. Whoever challenged me for it had to die. As a necromancer, I'm not skilled in combat, but the killing experience I accumulated over a decade of the apocalypse was unmatched by anyone from peaceful times. I struck decisively, eliminating my rival, and touched the orange light sphere without issue. Once again, a cold voice rang in my ears. Congratulations! You have obtained the 5-star job class Demon King. In an instant, my appearance underwent a dramatic transformation. My short black hair rapidly grew into long silver-white tresses, darker than night. My delicate features gained an aura of mystery. Noble and elegant, I opened my personal attribute panel. Let me see how much stronger the legendary Demon King is compared to a mere necromancer. Not too concerned with my outward transformation, I nonchalantly displayed my status. Name, Ying Bin Job 5-star Demon King Talent SSS. Deathly appearance. You can control any undead of equal or lower level than you. Enhance your undead spells and abilities. Resurrection. You can revive all the dead within a 100-meter radius. To fight for you, revived units retain 20% of their former base attributes. Without equipment or skills. No limits on quantity. Summon Skeletal Warrior skill. Costs 10 mana points. Summons 1 Skeletal Warrior from an intact corpse. Skeletal Warriors are equal level to you. Can have up to 10 Skeletal Warriors. No wonder it's a 5-star job. The eunuch made amends. I quickly browsed the attribute panel, gaping in astonishment at the health. The mana and for attributes were exactly the same as my previous life. What shook me were the 2 divine talents. The Grim Reaper's countenance and the S-Class King's Rebirth. The effect of the King's Rebirth was simple and crude. With me as the center, within a radius of 100 meters, as long as any creature died, I could revive them. To fight for me, relying on the King's Rebirth, I could easily raise a vast undead army without consuming any mana. As for the Grim Reaper's countenance, it allowed me to control any undead creature of a lower level than me. Even the undead summoned by other necromancers had to obey my command. I was a necromancer in my previous life, so I was well versed in all the abilities of necromancers. I looked towards Lu Jia's corpse. In the name of the Lich King, be revived. A red hexagram appeared under Lu Jia's corpse. The flesh of the body lying in the array melted away, returning to the earth. What rose from the array was a sturdy, 185-meter tall skeleton warrior in spiky armor kneeling before me. Just as I summoned the skeleton warrior, the merfolk launched a brutal slaughter. The merfolk's daggers were sharpened fish bones. They charged onto the beach, killing, help, monsters. Tourists fled in panic, screaming for help with their throats torn. Kill them. Not my wife. Take the kids and go first. I'll hold them off. Someone must have just graduated. How could the world become like this? It's an illusion. I don't believe it. Some intentionally tricked their girlfriends. When disaster struck, some used their lives to buy time for their families. Others could not accept the world's upheaval, closed their eyes like ostriches with heads in the sand, only to be tripped and stabbed full of holes by fools. In the face of disaster, people revealed their true natures, whether brave or cowardly. The outcome was death. In this era of cataclysm, Only the chosen ones were the main characters. These weaklings should be my first army. I walked against the tide of fleeing people. Chaos reigned. The merfolk before me were nothing more than ants to be crushed. My skeleton warrior bravely charged forward, smashing a merfolk's brain to pulp with its shield. Another was cleaved into by its sword. The skeleton warriors fought fiercely, slaying 11 merfolk in one go. The slain merfolk, revived by the king's rebirth, joined my undead ranks, providing personal guards for me. The revived undead merfolk retained only 20% of their former strength, fit only as cannon fodder in meat shields. Transformed into undead dark murlocs after their demise, their combat prowess plummeted drastically compared to when they were alive. Resurrected by the monarch, the revived forms inherited a mere 20% of their original base attributes. Capable of serving solely as cannon fodder and meat shields. Unfit to be considered the main force, 3 lifeless corpses lay sprawled upon the blood-soaked beach. I expended 30 points of mana to summon skeletal warriors. In the blink of an eye, 3 more skeletal warriors crawled up from the sandy shore. Facing my draconic, the situation at the beachfront was as follows. The undead murlocs chased after the survivors, while I, accompanied by 4 skeletal warriors, pursued the undead murlocs. At the ticket booth of the beachfront, the ticket seller hid in the office, shouting through the window for the women and children to go first. Anyone can preach, but few can truly put it into practice. The undead murlocs were rapidly approaching. In such dire circumstances, no one cared for chivalry. Squeezing through meant survival. Unable to escape meant certain death. The crowd jostled and shoved one another, quickly clogging the narrow passage, obstructing any chance of escape. The pursuing undead murlocs swung their butchering blades, and in an instant, the exit became a river of blood. The beachfront was but a mere corner of the catastrophe. Billions of humans worldwide endured the agonies brought forth by this calamity. Skeletal warriors, indulge in your bloodlust and slaughter these. I pursed my lips, an icy expression upon my face. Lowly, insignificant fools, who dared to run wild before me, oblivious to death. The 4 skeletal warriors formed a line, slaughtering the undead murlocs with the efficiency of a meat grinder. The slain undead murlocs slowly rose again, impaling their former comrades with bone spears. The undead murlocs slain by the treacherous ambush followed the same path as their predecessors. Initially, there were 4 skeletal warriors and 11 undead murlocs. Their originals. They confronted nearly 80 undead murlocs. As the battle raged on, the number of undead murlocs swelled to 60. Less than 20 undead murlocs of higher rank remained. The power of the monarch's possession manifested itself fully. As long as the slaughter continued, my forces would only grow larger. The 4 skeletal warriors charged ahead, while the foolish undead murlocs rushed in a disorganized mass, only to be annihilated. The beachfront was drenched in a bloody shower. With each undead slain, my experience bar increased by 1.2%. The one-sided massacre concluded as swiftly as it had begun. I leveled up to level 2. Your level has increased to LV2. You have gained 5 free attribute points. I allocated all 5 points to intelligence. Intelligence governs a character's maximum mana and mana recovery rate. For a Lich King, higher intelligence is always better. The superiority of a 5-star class is evident upon leveling up. I gained 5 free attribute 3-star points. Class gains only 3. Most pathetic are the 1-star classes, requiring 5 levels to match a single level of a 5-star class. A 3-star class would only gain 3 attribute points upon leveling up. The most pitiful were the 1-star classes, requiring 5 levels to match the gain of a single level of a 5-star class. The disparity was not apparent initially, but it widened as levels increased. Regarded as lowly monstrosities, the murlocs were unlikely to drop equipment or skills, making the hunt futile. On the battlefield, only 6 calamity coins, the size of large marbles, hovered. Calamity coins were the fundamental currency of the calamitous age. A single calamity coin could purchase 50 pounds of rice from a neutral merchant, or 4 cases of mineral water. In the days that followed, people would simply refer to coins as calamity coins. Go and collect those coins for me. I commanded my archetype, continuing to summon skeletal warriors. Row after row of red, sinister hexagonal summoning circles appeared, and skeletal warriors rose from the bodies of the deceased tourists clogging the entrance. I expended 60 mana points, summoning 10 additional skeletal warriors. The remaining corpses transformed into undead, following my lead. I could only summon skeletal warriors from human corpses, as the Murloc's diminutive stature rendered their bodies incomplete, unfit for raising. The malevolent rituals reanimated the skeletal death knights. Scene after scene, pushing the limits of human psychological endurance, unfolded in a bloody spectacle before our eyes. The few resort staff hiding in the office room were pale with fright, silent, watching as I led the skeletal warriors and Murlocs away. As we exited the beachfront, the sky gradually darkened. The two burning soul fires, floating in the skeletal warriors' hollow eye sockets, became exceptionally vibrant. Surrounded by the skeletal warriors' guard, I surveyed the parking lot, shaking my head silently. The cab drivers had not heeded my advice, leaving long ago. My next destination would be St. Martin's High School, reopening memories long sealed away. I clarified my next objective: St. Martin's International High School. There, an item of great importance to me awaited. A skill tome. Summon Ghost. In the Calamitous Age, besides their innate skills, the Chosen Ones could only learn new abilities through skill tomes. Yet the drop rate for skill tomes was exceedingly low, resulting in a perpetual shortage in the market, and their exorbitant pricing. Even a common parry and riposte skill could sell for over 1,000 coins, especially in the early Calamitous period, when regions were isolated, cut off from the outside world. Few Chosen Ones could learn new skills compatible with their class. Even I, who had lived affluently in my past life, only acquired the Summon Ghost skill tome from a black market merchant in the 3rd year of the calamity. This demonstrates the priceless value of skill tomes. Truly invaluable, Summon Ghost was undoubtedly a godly skill in the early days, for in that period, physical classes dominated. Magic classes were hampered by their inherently low intelligence, rendering their spells underwhelming, and their overall might lacking. Ghosts, with 90% physical damage immunity and doubled magical damage vulnerability, were the bane of physical classes. A terror to magic users. As the 4-star necromancer and sworn enemy of the Lu family, Qin Aoju relied on his level advantage, coupled with the overwhelmingly powerful Summon Ghost in the early game, to once suppress and defeat the Lu family, nearly slaying them, to become the 2nd Lich King. Yet the Lu family inevitably emerged victorious in the end. For a Lich King, a mere stroll through a graveyard would allow him to amass an army. Wherever they tread, dominance follows, relentless in warfare, fearing no opposition. A single word separates Necromancer from Lich King, yet the divide is cavernous. This reminded me. In Jianghai City, there was an ambitious upstart coveting the Lich King's mantle. An opportunity to eliminate them, if Qin Aoju would not tolerate slumber at his bedside. Who dares rest while he lies awake? Brimming with trepidation, I oriented myself, marching towards my destination.